Let's take a look at a sample credit application.
Looking at this, there's things that I like about it and things that I would improve or change on it. It's going to come down to a personal preference with your company and how you want to process through it. There's an awful lot of white space up here. You're going to want to make sure you have a company logo and then how it's returned to you. So whether you want it scanned or emailed back. Over in this section where it says credit limit requested, that's a really important piece of information. You want to know what you're shooting for. You want to know how much credit you're trying to substantiate. I would lose the credit limit approved. If you put that number on there, it could work against you. If somebody asked for $40,000, you ended up giving them, say, $50,000, and over the course of the lifetime of the account, if you ended up increasing them to, say, $100,000, this could actually work against you in court. So that's something you might want to strike off of there. Right, coming down here into the body of it, it would be better to tighten all of this up. You could actually shrink the font down so that both sides of the credit application remain consistent. You've got your bank and trade information actually on the front. So you're going to want to pull that up, maybe put that information here before what type. And some of this information below, as far as bonding, what type of business, parent company, can also be tightened up and not so much white space left in there. Some of the things that you're asking for, they will never give you the information back on, like has applicant ever declared bankruptcy. If you're asking if this particular company has, it's probably always going to be left blank along with the guarantor as well. So things to kind of watch for that you may or may not want to include. Section 2, type of business and ownership information. These are some critical components. You want to know what type of business entity it is. So that's sole proprietor, partnership, corporation, or if it's a government agency. Limited liability. Active corporation may or may not be included in there. It's something you could get rid of if you're looking to save space. State incorporated in and date of incorporation. Usually those don't get filled out. Not a big deal if someone doesn't, so you might not include that. When you go into the Secretary of State, when you're processing your credit application, that's going to be able to tell you what state they were incorporated in. You're going to pull that down and that will tell you if they're still active. It's not that I don't trust what they put on the credit application, but you want to kind of go with the theory of trust but verify. So you're always going to want to look at that information a little deeper. Give a little bit more room for owner or officer's names, titles, and then social security and phone number. You're going to want and need as many opportunities to reach out to them as you can. To sum up page 1, if you can get this back part, your bank and trade references, back to the front, it's going to make it cleaner, more condensed, and not look as ominous to somebody. If they have to flip it over and continue to fill out, even though it's the same information you're asking for, it actually makes it feel a little bit more like you're pushing the envelope and asking them to do a lot. Try to keep your terms and conditions all on one page. So what you've got here through your terms of agreement, terms and conditions, terms of sale agreement, whatever you want to label it, you're going to want to keep those all on 1 to 1.5 pages. So this entire back page should have those terms and conditions on it. If you're incorporating a personal guarantee, try to have that all on this first page. So this last page is blank. Again, a lot of it is just psychology of the customer. Okay, first page is the information and the data we're trying to connect with. Second page is our terms and conditions. Third page is the signature page, and if we're incorporating a personal guarantee. So when you have guarantee on here, be specific with it. Put personal guarantee. You want them to understand exactly what they're signing. We discussed bank and trade quite a bit. Let's break it down a little bit on the credit application. On the bank information, you're going to want to know where they bank, not because you're going to get a particular reference on them, but you want to make sure you know if something goes wrong, and I'm not saying it will, but in case it does, you have the bank information of where they currently bank, the account number that they were using, and any information there. You don't really need a fax to go with that bank reference. You're rarely going to use it. An email would be better. For trade references, they have 4 listed here. You can go with 3. What you're looking for is like industry trade references. You should see some of your competitors on there. If they're a subcontractor and say they're insulation, there should be at least 1 to 2 insulation distributors or manufacturers listed there. And then additional products that they would buy. Support, dormers, drip edge, any of the things that might go with that drywall tape, anything that supports the particular industry they're in. You're going to want to look for those. And on trade references, I would ask for that email address. Fax is not as critical with your trade references, but unfortunately in our industry, it's still a major component. So don't cut yourself short, ask for both. On the terms and conditions section, this one labels it agreement to terms. It could basically be called any number of things: terms of sale, sales agreement, terms and conditions. This is where you lay out the rules of the road. What I don't like about this particular one is it doesn't label what the numbers are: payment information, warranty, indemnification. You want to have those grouped out so that when somebody reads this, and in most cases they won't actually read it word for word, they'll skim it. You want them to see, here are the big bucket items: payment agreement, disputes, service charges, lien rights. You're going to want to have that first line in bold, almost as a subtitle, drawing attention to what it actually is. On your terms and conditions, we talked about having the entire terms and conditions on one page, possibly flowing into the third page. So again, first page, the data and information that you're looking for from the company. Second page, terms and conditions with any little bleed over. Opportunity to put the name and signature on here, date, title. Things that are really important to pay attention to: make sure you know who signed it. Sometimes people's signatures are impossible to read. They look like someone signed it with their feet. So you're going to want to make sure that the name is printed down there. A lot of times what ends up happening is they sign it in two places. So clarify whatever the squiggle up here is the squiggle of who is down here. If it's Paul Smith needs to spell that out. The title of who that person signing was and the date it was signed. If you're going to ask for a personal guarantee, try to incorporate that into your credit application when possible. Here they've included it on this application, which I do like. I would tighten it up, condense it, make it a little smaller. Make sure you're not just putting in words for word's sake. Don't let it bleed onto a fourth page. Pull all of this back onto here so that it's on that first page. Another thing that's very antiquated and is actually, if you ever get it, it will be amazing. Most companies don't actually have them readily available, is this seal. You're just going to want to have the name of the guarantor, the signature, a little bit of data there, social security number, but you can lose the seal part. It will confuse your customer. The idea of the credit application is not to scare the customer, so the tighter and more condensed you can make it while still have the ability to read it is encouraged. If there's something on your current credit application you don't understand or don't like, take some time to look at other opportunities to improve it. Take a look at what others are doing. And if you have questions, hop on the Level Set Community Credit Board, ask some questions, see what people like, see what they don't like. You may be surprised at what you come up with. So to sum it up, you've got 3 pages or less. First page, all the information you're going to need to get that communication started, to get the data that you need from your customer and be able to ask questions. Second and third pages are going to be your terms and conditions, signature, possible personal guarantee on there.
This is just a small taste of a much larger class. You can take the full class for free at levelset.com. Join me.